super soft, fluffy and tender with a wonderful milky smell that can be sensed even from the moment that the dough is kneaded. These are the compliments that I normally heard from my blog readers about this Hokkaido bread. It has been almost 2 years since the day I shared the recipe for this bread on Savory Days, and it's still among the most beloved recipes on my blog. So I decided to make this video to help you better with making a wonderful Hokkaido bread right at the first time you try to bake it. Add into the bowl the flour, milk powder, sugar and salt. Then with a wire whisk, mix all of these ingredients. Next, add in the instant yeast and mix well again. With a spoon, make a hole in the flour mixture and then add in the egg, the cream and milk. Using a wooden spoon, mix everything until incorporated, and we have quite a lumpy dough like in the video. Cover the bowl with cling film and let the dough rest for about 20 minutes at room temperature. Lightly dust the counter with some flour and restart kneading the dough. You can have your dough kneaded by a mixer or a bread maker. However, I prefer to knead it by hands because I think it does help to improve my bread making skills quite a lot. And as you can see in the video, it's not very difficult to knead bread dough. All we need to do is to push the dough away from us with the palms of our hands, then fold it back, and push it again, then fold it back. This kneading technique helps to develop and strengthen the gluten in the dough, so we want to repeat it again and again until we get a smooth and elastic dough. At the first 3 to 4 minutes, the dough can be very wet and sticky, which may make the kneading uncomfortable. You may want to use some extra flour to coat your hands and the dough, but try not to use too much flour. As we knead, the gluten will form and get stronger, and this makes the dough smoother, more elastic, less sticky and also drier. So if we use too much flour in the beginning, we may have a dry dough at the end of the kneading stage. Another important thing to notice is that the amount of milk used in the recipe may vary depending on the flour, the room humidity, and how you knead your dough. However, more milk or liquid in general is always better for bread dough as it gives the bread softer and fluffier texture. The dough with high hydration level is also easier to be handled. So if you feel that your dough is too stiff and hard to be kneaded, feel free to add some more milk. In addition to the pushing and folding technique, you may want to slam the dough onto the counter like I do in the video. This also helps strengthen the gluten, and I actually feel that it's quite effective, particularly at the end of the kneading stage. So after about 20 minutes kneading, my dough turns much smoother and more elastic. It also doesn't stick to my hands anymore, and I think it is the time to check if it's ready. I use the window pane test. As you can see in the video, I take a piece of dough and gently stretch it out. It has quite a nice window, however it still tears a little bit, so I think it's not really there yet, and I decided to knead a little bit more. And after another 5 minutes kneading, I tried the window pane test again. This time, as you can see in the video, it looks perfect, which means that we can stop kneading here and then turn to the next stage. At this stage, the dough should be very smooth and elastic. It's also quite tacky but not sticky, so when we touch it with our fingers, we may feel a little bit sticky, but when we lift our fingers up, it shouldn't stick to our fingers. For the first proofing or fermentation of the dough, grease the bowl with a little oil. Then we put the dough into the bowl and flip it over so that it can be covered with a thin layer of oil. Cover the bowl with cling film or a damp towel and let it rise at room temperature until it's doubled in size. A good way to check if the dough is ready after the first proofing is to poke the dough with our fingers. If the holes stay like this, then the dough is properly fermented. And we can gently knead the dough again to help the gluten relax after the first fermentation. Use a scale to weigh the dough, then divide it into 4 portions. Gently tuck under each piece of dough and shape it into a ball. This gives the dough a smooth surface. We do it for all 4 pieces of dough. Cover all of the dough with cling film and let them rest at room temperature for about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we can prepare the pan. If your pan is not a non-stick pan like mine, you can use a piece of butter to grease it like I do in the video. Here I shape the dough into 4 rows that fit a loaf pan. This shaping is pretty easy and we do the same for all 4 pieces of dough. In brief, we flatten the dough, then roll it up, and flatten it again and turn it a quarter before roll it up into the final shape. When all of the dough is shaped and in the pan, we can start the second proofing. You can cover the pan with a damp towel and proof at the room temperature like the first proofing. Or if at your place the room temperature is quite cold as mine here, we can proof in the oven. What I did is preheating my oven at 50 degrees Celsius for about 3 minutes. Then I turn it off and put the pan inside with a cup of boiled water. I also spray a little bit of water into the oven before I close the door. This helps to create a warm and humid place for the bread to rise. The ideal temperature for proofing is between 32 and 38 degrees Celsius, and it shouldn't be any hotter than this, or else the yeast will be weakened or killed. Preheat the oven to 170 degrees Celsius. Since it normally takes about 15 minutes for the oven to reach the desired temperature, we can start preheating the oven when the bread has risen by about 70%, so when the oven reaches its needed temperature, our bread will have finished proofing as well. If you proof your bread in the oven like mine, remember to take it out before preheating the oven. For the egg wash, mix the egg with milk, then brush it lightly onto the bread. Don't brush too much because it may make the bread burnt very quickly. And also do this egg wash gently because the bread now is full of gas and we don't want to deflate it. Bake the bread at 175 degrees Celsius for approximately 30 to 40 minutes until the top is dark golden brown. After about 20 minutes, I rotate the pan because the temperature in my oven is not even, so this helps the bread to be baked more evenly. If your bread turned dark too quickly like mine, you can cover the top with a piece of aluminum foil. This helps avoid the bread getting burnt too fast. Once the bread is baked, take it out of the pan. I brush the top of the bread with some whipping cream when it's still hot because this gives the bread some glow and more tasty aroma. We only brush little by little so that the cream has some time to be totally absorbed into the bread. This bread can be eaten warm, but if you wish to slice it like how you do a sandwich loaf, then you should wait for it to completely cool, otherwise the inside of the bread can get dense and sticky to the cut.